Hey guys, so occasionally you are going to see me look down at my notes. Video is about Diddy. Um, I'm a millennial. I'm actually considered a geriatric millennial because that's a thing. Why wouldn't it be? And so in my day growing up, he was known as Puffy, Puff Daddy. So I may use that name interchangeably. And so we're going to talk about how the impact of Puff Daddy's, of the allegations against Puff Daddy. We're going to talk about the systemic view of what Puff Daddy did or what he's alleged to do, what the accusations against him are. We're going to talk about how things are unraveling and unfolding. We're going to talk about things from an advocate's perspective, and we're going to look at things from a survivor's perspective or a victim's perspective, a victim-centered perspective, a survivor-centered perspective, because I am a survivor advocate. I am a gender-based violence advocate. I also studied journalism when I was fresh out of high school, in college, and I have experience in advocating for people. So that is the lens that we are going to be talking about these things from. Makes sense. So let's get into it. I watched a CNN interview. I saw it live because I'm addicted to watching the news. I like news that is relatively unbiased. So I like to have things that are relatively centered and are able to provide me with news from multiple angles. I don't like to see things from a monolithic lens. So I prefer a news that is as unbiased as it can be. And I don't get that from MSNBC, and I wouldn't be caught dead watching Fox News. So I was watching CNN, and I was actually watching it when the breaking news came out that Puff Daddy had been arrested, Diddy had been arrested for the sex trafficking charges, the racketeering charges, and the myriad of other things that he's been accused of doing. So the first thing that I got to say is this is the worst kept secret in Hollywood. Everyone, for all intents and purposes, was aware of the actions that Puff Daddy was taking. Everyone was aware of the parties that he was doing. Everyone was aware of the abuse that he was inflicting on people. Everyone was aware of how he was treating with people. Everyone was aware that he wasn't really trustworthy. And his influence and his power played a role within how he was able to get away with his abuse for as long as he was able to get away with it. And so that is the systemic view that we're going to talk about. But before we get into all that, let's talk about the nitty gritty, the indictment, which is public record. It's unsealed. And so everyone can look at it. I can post a link as to where we can find it. And so we are going to dive right in and look at that. Now, before we do that, a couple things. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see my content. If you want to see more, there's a link in the description for Buy Me a Coffee. You can donate some stuff, donate some money, and I can use that to make more content. Please, but above everything else, like and share, subscribe, and support me so that I can make additional content and I can bring you more stuff like this, because this is what I love to do. Another thing is you're going to see that on my shirt, I wear a ribbon. A ribbon. Now, it looks a little bit weird in, with the camera and the lights, but the ribbon really is purple and teal. And so purple is the color for domestic violence, and teal is the color for sexual violence. Teal also happens to be the color of cervical cancer awareness. And so I wear a purple and teal ribbon whenever I do my videos because I am honoring the survivors. I'm honoring survivors that I've worked with. I'm honoring survivors that I don't know and are suffering in silence. I'm honoring survivors that I will work with in the future. And I'm honoring the survivor within me because we all matter. And so that's a few housekeeping things. Remember, share, share, subscribe, all that good stuff so that I can continue to make good content. All right. So the indictment. So it says, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not reading it verbatim, but it says that basically the gist of it is that he is Sean Diddy Combs, in addition to the other aliases or stage names that he's used, is accused of using his business empire, using his business to fund his sexual exploits. And in doing so, he trafficked people, he racketeered, right? Those are the racketeering laws that was initially put in place to deal with mobsters. And he is accused of abusing people. So let's unpack that, right? And so the part of what bothered me about the CNN, and it wasn't the whole CNN interview that bothered me, but part of what bothered me about the CNN interview is that they had a defense attorney there, and she said that she didn't understand that the prosecution didn't make clear that the sex trafficking was really sex trafficking and that it wasn't consensual. That for me is ridiculous. It flies in the face of everything that we know about sex trafficking, which in this day and age we know a lot about. Even the mundane people that don't do this work for a living, that don't work with survivors for a living, know about sex trafficking. So it's not something that's quiet anymore. Now, so his power and influence alone is a coercive factor. The fact that he is Sean Diddy Combs, probably a billionaire, I don't keep up with his fortune, but probably a billionaire, that's a safe guess, is enough to say that he has power and that he can misuse that power. My phone is going off, so I'm going to put it on silent. And so it's that power that enabled him, that fueled him in doing these sexual exploits. And so, and that's what, when I heard the interview, that's what I said. They proved that it's coercive, which is what the indictment said, and that there was a power dynamic that was definitely unbalanced. And so here's the thing about coercion. Coercion is a very powerful abusive tool that people who abuse, people who choose to abuse, people who choose to cause harm use, because it's almost effortless after it's done for some time. Right. And so the thing about coercion, it's the mind games. It's the mind fuck, if you will. I don't want to get demonetized, so I don't want to curse too much. I can be quite the sailor. But it is the mind games, the manipulative behaviors that is the power. And so people that are coercive, people that engage in coercion to maintain that power and control, which is what these abusers, these people that cause harm, need in order to do what they do, they use threats of violence. They use threats of financial ruin. They use um, promises of making it big, promises of getting a career, promises of putting you on the map. And so they use these tools when, after some time, you may have to, for lack of a better phrase, physically assault someone a few times before the threat of physically assaulting them is enough, where you no longer have to physically assault them. And so with what we saw in how Puff Daddy Sean Combs engaged in the physical violence of Cassie, everyone saw that. And so everyone saw that he was definitely capable of being physically violent and assaulting people. So there definitely is that element of coercion that I believe, in my professional opinion, that is enough for anyone, whether they are a sex worker or not, to do things they would not otherwise do if given full ability to consent. And that's the key, right? There was no consent. If someone is holding over you money, a career, the potential of making it big, the prestige of being with someone that's rich, then you are not really consenting. There's no consent there because there's a power imbalance. And so that's what I think that defense attorney, that Jake Tapper, who I adore, I think Jake Tapper is great, but that's that is that piece that the defense attorney that Jake Tapper was interviewing was missing. And now I get it. She's a defense attorney. Her job is to defend people. But when you're defending someone, you have to use credible defenses. And saying that how could that this could possibly potentially be consensual doesn't make sense, especially when there's also in the indictment, they talk about how Puffy, Diddy, Sean Combs was drugging the people that he had in his house, or in his places of his choosing, to do what he wanted. There were times that he wasn't even there. He had them recorded. There were times when they were acting under his instruction and his minions were doing his bidding, abusing these people. So this is like mastermind work to another degree, to another level. So that's the indictment. And we talked about coercion. So his reach, right? His network, the ability that he has to tamper with witnesses, confront witnesses, the other celebrities that he was friends with, and the things that they were also potentially, allegedly, a part of. And so all of that works in with the coercion. All of that is included in the coercion piece. And so when we think about the coercion, we should also think about what that means, what that entails, and not just fall back on the fact that his influence, and give him the benefit of the doubt. I also want to mention, when Cassie disclosed as having been abused by Diddy, my heart broke for her. My heart broke for her because I knew that coming forward against someone as powerful as Diddy is a difficult task. And I felt like she was so brave in having done so. Not to say that survivors that don't come forward are not brave. I didn't come forward, and I don't feel as though it wasn't that I wasn't brave. It was that I didn't think I had options. And if we're not aware of the options that we have, we're not inclined to put ourselves in position of ridicule. And what ended up happening is that when Cassie disclosed, Puffy put out a video or a statement, a something, and said she's looking for money. She's just looking for a quick payday. and whatever else he said. And so that is what was at stake. And so I want to say, for me, it's easy. For me, it's easy to believe survivors because that is what I've been trained to do. I'm a survivor. I'm inclined to believe survivors. A lot of people aren't. And that's unfortunate in our society. More people, we should all believe survivors because it's difficult to come forward as a survivor. And so, to us as a society, let's stop disbelieving survivors. The rate of people that file false police reports about sexual violence, regarding sexual violence, that claim to have been sexually assaulted when they haven't been sexually assaulted, is the same rate as it is for any other crime, between 2 and 5 or 8%. It is a very, 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 very small margin. Not to mention that gender-based violence is one of the most underreported crimes there is. I believe that domestic and sexual violence are hand in hand in how underreported they are, but there is no evidence that says that survivors are not being honest when they are disclosing having been sexually assaulted or experienced domestic violence. And so let's start believing survivors, and let's stop making survivors prove that what they're saying is true, because then that's victim blaming, and we don't want to continue as a society to victim blame, because that's harmful. And if what we want is to work from a place of restoration and justice, then we shouldn't be victim blaming. So I'm going to be making these a series regarding Diddy, because I'm sure that more stuff is going to come out and we're going to have more conversations like this. So again, like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know if you liked the video. Let me know what you didn't like. And I look forward to giving you more content like this. Thank you so much.